But first, as you consider your self-improvement strategies this year, you look ahead to 2017 and say, how can I be better? Have you considered carving out time for personal hobbies? This aspect of making yourself a well-rounded woman, a well-rounded human, might be the most underestimated goal that we approach day to day, but could it help you achieve your other goals along the way? Finding time for hobbies is a challenge artist Natalie Malin knows firsthand. Welcome, it's so great to have you.
Thank you.
You know this challenge. You're a busy mom, right, in the trenches, but you also are being very purposeful. You're being intent about this. How do you make time for your artistic hobbies?
You know, one of the best ways that I personally have found with my situation, which is like you were saying, lots of littles, is to get things prepared ahead of time.
Okay.
So I have a little bag over here where I keep, this is so cute, it's from 42nd and Pine, and you put your stuff, your supplies in it. It can be this small, and you can have a watercolor pad, and your brushes, your paints, and it all fits right in that one little bag. You can stick it in a drawer in your kitchen.
So when nap time hits, I'm not running all over the house to track everything down from drawer to drawer.
And another great one I like too is this beautiful basket that I picked up, and I put lots of things in there as well. If you have a larger pad of paper or a few more supplies, that's a great place to keep them too. They can air dry there. And it's easy to carry from room to room in the house.
So that's the preparation, but how do you have fun with it? In the small pockets of time, as a busy mom that you do, how do you have fun and push yourself creatively while still being true to who you are?
You know, it's super fun with a family to show them how to paint and show them how to do fun little things. And I like to sneak into my kids' rooms at night sometimes and like put little pictures in place of the pictures that have been in their room.
In fact,
something that they're into at the moment, I'll go and do a little study for fun.
I love this because my daughter currently asks for salsa. 5 times a day. Elsa. No, I'm not kidding. It's on repeat. And this little Elsa picture down here, that was kind of your creative pursuit one day, and you did tiptoe into your daughter's room and slip that into her little belongings.
Right. Just stuck it on and then I wanted to see how she noticed it right away when she woke up in the morning.
Did she?
It was so cute. So that's kind of our little thing now. Sometimes I'll go in and change things up in her room at night, which is super fun to do.
There's one artistic pursuit, if you will, one newer hobby on the scene that you are really excited to invest in and try this year.
Yes, gouache is a really big trend, and it's been really fun.
Gouache.
Gouache.
Gouache. I've never heard of this.
If you're new to the term, it's kind of like and it looks like gouache.
It's how you spell it.
It's spelled very strangely,
so
but it's
G-O-U?
G-O-U-A-C-H-E.
C-H-E.
Lots of vowels in there. So gouache, and what gouache is, it's a lot like watercolor. The nice thing about gouache is you can leave it and come back to it. If you leave it in your brush, it's like watercolor, it's not gonna ruin your brush.
So watercolor we see on the top, very faded, very muted. Gouache is a little more vibrant.
Right, gouache is very opaque. So they basically take a watercolor and they add more pigment to it, and they add a little bit of a chalk inside to make it more velvety textured.
Matte. Is it matte?
It is very matte.
Okay.
And then acrylic, the last one you saw there, acrylic is more plasticky. It's a lot shinier. Sometimes you can get matte acrylics too, but that's a whole different thing.
So what can you do? Gouache. We were joking, it sounds more like a verb than a noun, right?
Yeah, it does.
I'm gonna gouache you. Anyway, what can you do with gouache that you can't do with watercolor? What's the difference?
Watercolors have a much more like translucent, painterly effect, and gouache has a much more velvety, solid effect.
So it's the aesthetic.
So you can build colors on top of each other.
Okay, okay. Are these some examples?
So here's some examples. So it's really flat and velvety.
Look how pretty. Oh, this girl is talented.
And these are really fun to do. You can just make simple shapes with gouache and then layer other things on top.
What supplies do you need? Anything different than the watercolor stash?
Supplies. So glad you asked. It's a different kind of paint. So you do need to buy different paint. And I have a link on my blog with links to them so you can find them quickly and easily. But with just these 3 colors plus white, you can make that whole rainbow of colors.
So I'm looking at a yellow, a pink, a teal, and a white. And you blend and mix to create that rainbow?
Yep.
Wow.
And it's really, you can make a lot of things from those 3 colors. And I know everyone says buy red, yellow, blue. Those aren't really my favorite colors to paint with. It's kind of a little more fun to go hot pink and teal.
Did you just knock the primary colors in the song we've been singing since we were 3?
Just a tiny bit. Okay. Just a tiny bit.
But you're right. The aesthetic trend right now is just brighter and more cheery.
You don't have to buy a red, yellow, blue to be able to make purple and green. You can use some other different colors that are maybe more fun to you.
Same watercolor brush that we would use?
Yep, this is a good round. There's some different ones shown right here. This is a Ranger brush. This is a Winsor & Newton Cotman brush. And I have this linked as well. I like to buy a 6 and a 4. Sometimes I like to use something smaller like a 2. This is a 2
well, which would be the better
details.
Beginner brush?
I would buy one of each.
Okay, buy both.
I'd buy like a 6 and a 2 or a 4 and a 6.
Right.
The thing that's nice about this brush is it comes to a good enough point that you can make tiny details and you don't really need 2 brushes.
It's the argument I practice on my husband every day. You need both.
Yeah, you need both.
You need both pairs of shoes.
You can totally live without.
Okay.
But paper is important also. If you're gonna do gouache and you want that really flat look, a hot press paper is important. So what hot press means is that it's really smooth. So you can see how smooth this paper is.
Yeah.
Compared to this paper is very textured.
And that's going to give you just the finisher after?
It just makes it a little easy to get crisp edges if you're using a hot press paper. This one's called a Watercolor Block. And this one, I'm going to turn it around so you can see. This one has a little space right there where you can stick a butter knife or a palette knife, and that's how you cut it off afterwards.
Oh, you're kidding.
So you actually don't have to tape it down, and it keeps your paper perfectly smooth the whole time you're painting.
I feel so artsy.
It's
Learning
really
these,
great.
these tricks of the trade. And will it say hot press paper? Here goes my artsy degree.
It does. It says hot press paper right on the
label?
front.
Okay, all right.
Or you can just buy the pink one.
Just
and
making
you'll know
sure
you're
it's
good.
labeled for dummies. Me, not
Totally.
her. I want to get into
not at all.
this. Show me how we
Okay.
would practice.
So if you can spray these, so you spray them and get them a little bit wet. If you want to, you can just dip your brush in also.
Sorry, dumb question number 200. Does the chalk and the watercolor substance comes mixed?
It comes mixed. So what I do, I buy these. I buy this separate, I buy this separate, and I squirt it in there and let it dry.
Okay.
Or you can buy, this is a more budget-friendly option, and this works great too.
Okay.
Just squirt it in, let it dry overnight. Some people like to use it wet, which also works. And you can reuse it. So, okay, so we're gonna pick a color.
This is where I do whatever
So
Natalie
let's just do, we're gonna do, oh, that's
It's
so
like
fun.
Simon
Love it.
Says Natalie style.
That's
okay.
right. Okay, we're gonna pick a purple.
I'm gonna pick a pink.
Okay, pick pink. That's what do whatever works for, and then just start painting. Now, you don't want to have a ton of water, so if you feel like it's looking too watery, just dig in for a little bit more pigment on a drier side of your little cake.
Guess what? Can I make a confession? I know watercolor is the huge trend right now, and I do appreciate the soft. I like this richer, more vibrant, as you described it, velvety.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
This is a very traditional medium for illustrators back in the day because it's easier to make changes in gouache.
No,
watercolor is not a very fixable
Right, once it
medium.
runs and bleeds, it's there.
And you can't go back on top of it.
Almost out of time. I could talk and paint with you all day. Quickly give us a flower shape to try. Just the circle.
So just do a circle and then do a leaf. Then we're gonna come back on top with lines, and I'm gonna show you one that's already done because this one will need to dry for a second.
Sure.
You're gonna come back on top with some lines and then just a dark center.
Look at that. Easy shapes.
And then you have a flower.
So let it dry, layer it. Natalie's super fun.
So simple and so fun.
Thank you for introducing us to the world of gouache. And if people want to know more, how can they get in touch with you?
I have a class coming up this Friday, actually, a watercolor class, and we'll be talking a little bit about gouache as well, actually. It's Friday 6 to 8 at the Paper Crush store in Lehigh.
Nice.
So come paint with me. It'll be really fun time.
All right, a girl we love at a store we love, a new hobby that potentially you could love and pick up in 2017. Thank you again.